Why did this video appear on your screen at your exact moment? Out of millions, you are here, and that timing is not random. SOPHIA chose you because your mind is finally quiet enough to hear truth. If life feels different lately, lighter, clearer, sharper, this is your signal. Stay with me, because what you notice next will quietly change. Why Sophia's signal appears only when you are truly ready. Sophia's signal does not appear when your life looks perfect. It appears when your thinking becomes honest. Being ready is not about knowing more spiritual ideas, reading more books, or waiting for a dramatic sign. It is about reaching a quiet internal point where you stop lying to yourself about what is draining you, what is holding you back, and what you already understand but keep postponing. Most people stay busy to avoid clarity. Noise feels safer than truth. But when your mind starts slowing down, something changes. You notice your emotional reactions instead of being controlled by them. You pause before repeating the same arguments, the same disappointments, the same self-blame. This is the moment Sophia's signal can reach you because your attention is no longer trapped in survival mode. Being ready also means your identity is becoming flexible. You are no longer trying to protect an old version of yourself at all costs. For example, maybe you once needed constant approval to feel secure. Now, when someone ignores you or misunderstands you, it hurts less and teaches you more. That emotional shift is not weakness. It is a sign that your nervous system is learning safety without external confirmation. Another sign of readiness is when problems stop feeling personal and start feeling informative. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" you begin asking, "What is this showing me about my patterns?" That single question changes everything. It moves you from emotional reaction to quiet authority over your own life. Sophia's signal appears only when your mind becomes capable of holding responsibility without shame. You no longer blame your past, your family, your partners, or your circumstances for every limitation. You begin to see where you still give away control, your time, your attention, your emotional energy, and you feel ready to take it back without anger. Readiness also shows up in your relationships. You may feel naturally drawn away from people who thrive on chaos, drama, or constant reassurance, not because they are bad, but because your nervous system no longer needs that emotional rhythm to feel alive. You start preferring calm conversations, meaningful silence, and honest boundaries. This is why the signal feels subtle. It is not meant to shock you. It is meant to meet you where your mind has already matured. Sophia does not arrive to save you. She appears when you stop waiting to be saved. And when you reach this stage, you do not need permission to change your direction. You simply recognize that your future requires a different version of your attention. That is what readiness truly means. The shift from external signs to inner awareness. For a long time, most people look outside themselves for confirmation. A message, a number pattern, a sudden coincidence, someone else's words, anything that can tell them what to do next. External signs feel comforting because they remove responsibility. If something outside is guiding you, then you don't have to fully trust your own judgment yet. But a real turning point happens when you slowly stop scanning the world for permission and start listening to your own internal signals. This shift does not happen suddenly. It happens in small moments. You notice how your body reacts when you agree to something you do not truly want. You feel a tightness in your chest before a conversation that usually drains you. You feel calm when you choose rest instead of proving yourself. These reactions are not random emotions. They are information. Inner awareness is not intuition in a dramatic sense. It is pattern recognition inside yourself. For example, you may realize that every time you rush a decision just to avoid discomfort, you end up cleaning emotional damage later. Or you notice that whenever you stay silent to keep peace, resentment slowly builds. When you start recognizing these patterns, you no longer need signs from outside to tell you what is healthy and what is not. This is where Sophia's message becomes different from ordinary spiritual content. The guidance is no longer about predicting events. It is about sharpening perception. You begin to notice your attention itself, where it goes, what captures it, what weakens it, what strengthens it. You see how certain content, conversations, or environments quietly pull your mind into comparison, urgency, or fear, and you also see what brings you back into clarity and emotional steadiness. This is powerful because it places authority back into your own hands. Instead of asking, "Is this meant for me?" you begin asking, "What happens to my mind when I stay in this situation?" Instead of waiting for signs that someone will change, you observe how you feel after every interaction with them. Instead of hoping the universe will push you forward, you notice when your energy naturally withdraws from things that no longer fit. Inner awareness teaches you timing better than any external signal ever could. You also become more patient with uncertainty. You no longer panic when answers are not immediately clear. You understand that clarity is not forced. It forms when your nervous system feels safe enough to see honestly. This is why readiness matters so much. When your awareness becomes internal, you stop reacting to life and start participating in it consciously. You are no longer chasing meaning. You are recognizing it in your own behavior, your choices, and your emotional responses. Sophia's signal is not pointing you outward. It is pointing you back to the only place where real direction can exist, your own awareness. Ending emotional loops and self-sabotage patterns. Emotional loops are not loud habits. They are quiet routines of thought and behavior that feel familiar, even when they slowly drain you. A loop can look like always explaining yourself too much, staying longer than you should in situations that feel heavy, or pushing forward only when pressure becomes unbearable. Self-sabotage is not a lack of discipline. It is often a nervous system choosing what feels predictable over what feels healthy. The first step toward ending these loops is noticing the moment just before you repeat them. There is always a small pause, a hesitation, a subtle inner signal that says, "This choice feels familiar, but not right." Most people ignore that moment because familiarity feels safe. Readiness means you start respecting that pause. For example, you might notice that every time you feel uncertain, you rush to fill the space, sending an extra message. Agreeing too quickly, overworking, or searching for reassurance. The behavior itself is not the problem. The pattern is. The pattern teaches your brain that discomfort must be escaped instead of understood. When you stay with that discomfort for a few seconds longer, something powerful happens. You begin teaching your mind that uncertainty does not mean danger. Self-sabotage often protects an old identity. Maybe you learn to be the strong one, the helpful one, the one who never causes problems. Growth threatens that role. When your life starts offering you calmer relationships, more freedom, or quieter confidence, part of you may unconsciously create tension just to feel recognizable again. This is not failure, it is conditioning. Ending a loop does not require dramatic change. It requires interrupting one automatic response at a time. You speak one honest boundary instead of staying silent. You delay one impulsive decision by one day. You choose rest once without justifying it. These small interruptions slowly weaken the emotional muscle memory that keeps pulling you back into the same outcomes. Another powerful shift happens when you stop judging your patterns. When you label yourself as broken, lazy, or inconsistent, your brain stays defensive. But when you treat your habits like data, simply information about how you learn to survive, you gain leverage. You can change what you understand without needing to attack yourself. Sophia's message becomes practical here. It is not about fixing who you are. It is about removing the unconscious rules that were never meant to guide your adult life. The moment you stop fighting your patterns and start studying them, you move out of repetition and into authorship. And this is where self-sabotage loses its power. Because once you clearly see what you do when you feel overwhelmed, unworthy, or afraid of change, you no longer mistake those reactions for your personality. You recognize them as habits. Habits can be rewritten, not through force, through awareness, patience, and small consistent choices that slowly teach your mind a new way to feel safe while growing. Emotional distance as alignment, not loss. One of the most confusing experiences during personal growth is the sudden emotional distance you begin to feel from people, places, or routines that once mattered deeply. It can feel uncomfortable, even wrong. You may wonder if you are becoming cold, selfish, or disconnected. In reality, this distance is often a form of alignment. Your inner values and emotional needs are finally matching your real choices. Alignment happens when your nervous system no longer accepts emotional patterns that once felt normal. You may still care about people, but you stop feeling responsible for fixing their moods, carrying their stress, or absorbing their chaos. The distance is not created by anger. It comes from clarity. You recognize that emotional closeness should feel steady, not exhausting. For example, you might notice that after certain conversations, you feel tense, restless, or unusually drained. Before, you would ignore that feeling and push through out of loyalty or habit. Now you pay attention to it. You begin choosing fewer conversations, shorter interactions, or clearer boundaries. This is not rejection, it is regulation. Another form of emotional distance appears when your goals quietly shift. The things you once bonded over, complaining, gossiping, constant urgency, or emotional intensity, no longer feel meaningful. You may still enjoy company, but you also begin to value silence, slower pace, and depth over constant stimulation. When your inner world changes, your emotional preferences naturally follow. Loss feels sharp and heavy, alignment feels calm and neutral. That difference matters. When emotional distance is alignment, you are not cutting people out to prove something. You are simply no longer forcing yourself into emotional environments that contradict your current state of mind. You are protecting the stability you worked hard to build. This can be especially difficult when others do not understand your shift. Some people may interpret your quietness as distance, arrogance, or withdrawal, but growth is often invisible from the outside. You are not becoming unreachable. You are becoming more selective with what reaches you. Alignment also teaches you that connection does not require constant availability. You stop measuring closeness by how often you respond, how much you explain yourself, or how much emotional labor you provide. Instead, you measure it by how safe and grounded you feel during and after interactions. Emotional distance becomes healthy when it creates space for clarity, rest, and honest choice. It allows you to show up intentionally instead of automatically. Sophia's message here is subtle but important. Not every separation is a failure. Not every ending is damage. Not every quiet step back is avoidance. Sometimes it is simply your nervous system choosing environments that support the person you are becoming. And when you allow that alignment to guide you, without guilt, you create space for relationships, work, and experiences that match your present self, not your past survival patterns. Using clarity and focus to protect your next chapter. Your next chapter does not begin with a big announcement. It begins with what you protect every day. Clarity is not about knowing the full plan for your future. It is about knowing what deserves your attention right now and what quietly steals it. Most people lose direction not because they lack goals, but because their focus is constantly fragmented. Notifications, emotional conversations, comparison, urgency, and other people's expectations slowly consume mental space. When your attention is scattered, even good opportunities become exhausting. Readiness means you stop treating your focus as unlimited. You start treating it as a resource. Clarity grows when you remove unnecessary mental noise. This can be as simple as limiting how much negative information you consume, being selective with who you share your plans with, or giving yourself short daily moments without stimulation. These small changes stabilize your thinking. When your mind is calmer, decisions become simpler, not easier, but cleaner. Focus also protects you from emotional drift. Emotional drift happens when you repeatedly adjust your choices to match other people's moods, pressure, or approval. You may say yes when you mean no. You delay actions that matter because someone else feels uncomfortable. Over time, this slowly reshapes your life around other people's comfort instead of your own direction. Protecting your next chapter means learning to recognize emotional distractions in real time. You notice when urgency is artificial. You notice when guilt is being used as leverage. You notice when you are explaining your boundaries instead of honoring them. These moments are not conflicts, they are decision points. Another powerful form of protection is selective commitment. You stop overloading your schedule and underestimating your recovery time. You choose fewer projects, fewer promises, and fewer emotional obligations, so that the things you do commit to receive your real energy. Clarity also changes how you relate to uncertainty. Instead of trying to control outcomes, you focus on strengthening your decision-making process. You ask better questions, you reflect before reacting, you review your choices without self-attack. This builds internal trust, which is more valuable than external reassurance. Sophia's message here is practical. Your future is shaped by what you allow to occupy your mind today. When you protect your focus, you protect your emotional stability. When you protect your clarity, you protect your direction. And when your direction becomes steady, your next chapter no longer depends on luck, timing, or validation. It grows quietly because your attention is finally working for you, not against you. At Quantum Core, remember, you are chosen because you're ready to rise, see clearly, and protect your future. Affirm, I trust my clarity. Comment it below and share your next step today.